Have you ever sat in that heavy silence at a family dinner? Here on Tales of Home, we retell those moments, honest every day, sometimes controversial. Every story is a mirror. Subscribe, join the conversation, and maybe find a little healing. I smelled the smoke before I saw it, a thin blue ribbon from the backyard pit slipping through the screen door. I pulled the red check cloth tight, set forks left and knives right, and slid the pitcher of sweet tea onto a cork mat where it began to sweat. From the window, the radio murmured a Spurs broadcast. The house is small and square, a stucco bungalow Miguel fixed one paycheck at a time. The porch sags a little where the mailman steps, and the ceiling fan in the dining room ticks on a loose chain. None of it is pretty, but all of it is paid for. That matters. It always has. The pecan out back throws slow shade. By the time Daniel eased into the driveway, the brisket had a bark you could knock with a fingernail. Brianna came behind him, sunglasses propped like a crown phone glowing in her hand. Maya and Jordan tumbled up the steps. I opened the door. "Smells like a county fair," Daniel said, kissing the air beside my cheek. He put down a sack of store rolls. Brianna took in the room with a realtor's eye. "Very lived in," she said, smiling past me at the kids. Her smile did not include me. I kept my eyes on this cutting board. The brisket rested under a slip of foil. "Wash up," I said. Phone's on the counter. "Seriously," Jordan asked. "Do you give your grandma's house her rules," Daniel said. He meant it for them, not for me. When everyone finally sat, we bowed our heads. I thanked heaven for the food, the roof, and the people who shared it. While I prayed, Brianna's phone buzzed twice where it lay face down. A green light pulsed. When I lifted my head, I caught the words on her screen before she covered it. "Senior Living Tour, Tuesday, 10 a.m. I said nothing. I sliced the brisket and passed plates. Brianna laughed at something no one else could see. "We should crack a window," she said. "It's heavy in here." "Air's fine," I said. "The rug keeps a smell," she added, still smiling at the children. Maya and Jordan exchanged a look. Daniel reached for the salt, then changed to a roll. I poured tea ice, popping like knuckles. Brianna speared a slice and held it up, appraising. "Do you ever think about paring down?" she asked lightly. "Upkeep must be a lot." "I manage," I said. She laughed once. Obviously we help." 2 fingers touched Daniel's wrist. "It's just a conversation," Daniel said. "Everything costs." "So do people," I thought. In the living room, the Nest camera blinked its red dot. When a silence opened, I steered toward harmless ground, Maya's science project. Red cabbage dye, baking soda volcano. I made my voice steady. The trick is learning to go invisible without disappearing. Halfway through the meal, Brianna wrinkled her nose and stage whispered for the children's benefit. "There it is again," she said, "that thrift store thing." "Store?" Maya cackled. Jordan snorted. Daniel studied his plate like a worksheet. Heat climbed my neck, patient and steady. I pressed the napkin's cool corner to my wrist the way nurses taught me on night shift, calm the pulse first. "Pass the cornbread," I said, and my voice surprised me, quiet, firm, like a door that shuts all the way. Brianna's phone buzzed again. She didn't flip it, but I already knew the words. "Tuesday at 10. The thought slid behind my ribs and sat there. When the plates were mostly bare, Maya and Jordan drifted to the back door and pressed their faces to the screen, calling to the neighbor's dog. Daniel carried dishes to the sink, careful in the way of a man who senses a line but can't see it. Brianna traced a circle in the ring of moisture, her glass left on the table. "It's just that options exist," she said, tender as a hand on a shoulder that isn't yours. "Places with staff, activities, fewer stairs." I stacked plates. "Ceramic is a comfort, solid earned. This is one floor," I said, "and the staff is me." She smiled the way people do when they think they've proven a point and want to be gracious. "Exactly," she said. "It's a lot." "Ruth," Daniel said, "not Mom." The word landed like a coin on concrete. "We're just thinking out loud." "Then think somewhere else," I said, mild as weather. I turned on the tap. Hot water fogged the window until the grapefruit tree outside dissolved into a soft green blur. When the glass cooled, the leaves returned as if printed there by patience. I washed, I rinsed. I slid each plate into the rack at an angle that would dry fastest. Behind me, chairs scraped. The front door opened, then closed. At the end, I shut the water and waited for the last patter to disappear down the drain. The radio shifted to a commercial for tires. I pressed the lifted edge of the countertop laminate with my thumb. It lay flat, then rose the moment I moved away. I dried my hands and opened the sideboard. Beneath a stack of placemats lay a folder with my name in black marker. "Paper smells like cedar and dust if you keep it long enough." I did not open it. I only weighed it. Evening gathered in the corners of the room, easy as dust. The folder with my name stayed on the sideboard all night, a square of weight I could feel the way you sense a storm. I didn't open it. The refrigerator sighed, the thermostat clicked, a branch tapped the stucco. I killed the lamps, brewed tea I didn't drink, and lay beneath the fan until the room settled into its small, reliable dark. Sleep came in pieces, a far train twice. The nest chimed when a cat crossed the porch. At 5, I set coffee to drip in blistered tortillas, filling them with eggs and salsa. I ate standing the way I used to before the early bus route, one hand on the counter, one on breakfast. When light reached a clean angle, I slid the folder to the table and lifted the clasp. The top sheet was a payoff letter in polite blue. Paid in full, November 2016, signature like a wave. Beneath it sat pay stubs by month, hospital cafeteria, county courthouse, janitorial, summer school supervision. You could chart a spine from the ink where weeks doubled, where hours bent, where overtime laid brick on brick until a house stood. Miguel's driver's license slipped from a smaller envelope, hologram catching light. He wore his job in the set of his jaw. The year on the corner was 1999, the spring the scaffolding buckled. The county form that followed asked for next of kin. I signed without shaking in the clerk's office and shook later at the kitchen table where Maya colors now. The folder held cost and proof and insurance letter, a receipt for a used washer, a water heater bill due on Christmas Eve, yellow carbon copies for field trips where Daniel Alvarez loops in my block letters, clarinet rental, size 5 cleats from the consignment shop, laces frayed but strong. In a photo paper clipped to the stack, he is 10 ribbon pinned crooked from the county fair, grin big enough to split June. That is what the mortgage took if you need a ledger, the pads at the base of each thumb, a slice of hearing in the left ear from floor buffers, and time which isn't refundable. It gave me a lock that turned when I said so and a mailbox with my name. I do not confuse cost with regret. At 9, Daniel's key scraped the deadbolt. He came in on a call, apology half-shaped, kissed the air near my cheek, eyes sliding past the papers. Brianna followed, perfume tidy as a model home. She set a canvas tote by the stairs. A list stuck out with my handwriting where someone had handed me a pen and said, "You're better at coupon math." They moved in last fall after the storm ran a green tongue under their apartment door. When the people you raised arrive with damp shoes and a suitcase, you make the couch a bed, turn the dryer to low, and lay out towels that still smell like sunshine from the line. For 2 weeks they whispered thanks and wiped the sink dry. Then the dishwasher became a machine that loads itself. The thermostat preferred a number that wasn't mine. Streaming passwords multiplied. Packages arrived with names that sounded like hobbies, Prime plus family. Max, small vines with glossy leaves. Just until we catch our breath, Daniel said, and I said, "All right," and the vines grew flowers you couldn't eat. Most bills in this house are older than anyone living here. They hum on autopay, a quiet music I don't conduct. On Wednesday, a charge hit my checking account that blinked oddly, a family phone plan I had never joined. I scrolled back to the first draft 3 months ago. Farther down, a streaming bundle larger than my grocery list for a week. The names on the receipts were pleasant and invented. I printed the statements and slid them into clear sleeves. If you don't put it in writing, it is only weather. The day warmed. I mopped the kitchen and poured out gray water that smelled faintly of lemon and smoke. From the porch, I watched a white truck unload pallets 2 houses down. Men carried boards shoulder high. The foreman lifted 2 fingers. I lifted mine. Brianna's laugh carried through the screen. She stood in the living room with her phone at a flattering angle, ring light clipped to the mantel, speaking to a woman whose name began with B and ended with Y. "It's kind of perfect," she said. "Free childcare, built-in meals, utilities are a non-issue. If we get her placed before school starts, we could save for a down payment." The nest listened without blinking. Jordan sprinted past me into the yard, basketball thudding at his hip. "Grandma, watch," he said, going up for a layup and clanging the rim, laughing anyway. I clapped. Maya followed with a shoebox of bean sprouts reaching for sun. She told me about capillaries and starch hands shaping the air. In the afternoon, I drove to the laundromat because the new washer shakes the frame and I don't trust it with blankets. A woman folded shirts into rectangles. A boy kicked his heels to the dryer's hum. When I came home, the porch smelled like hot concrete in last summer. From the closet, I took the tin box and set it beside the folder. Inside, my social security card with raised numbers softened by time. Miguel's wedding band tied with dental floss to a loop of ribbon. A key to a box at the credit union. Daniel's second-grade portrait with a cowlick no comb could tame. I threaded the key through the ribbon and held it. Metal remembers. So do hands. We ate arroz con pollo at dinner, the pot set on a trivet. Daniel told a story about a job posting and laughed at his own ending before anyone else could. Brianna scrolled, humming. Maya kept her elbows off the table. Jordan asked for thirds. On the surface, we were a family. Underneath, current moved the way a river turns persistent, taking a little bank each season. Later, with the kitchen dry and the radio murmuring about tires, I slid the folder into a canvas bag and stood in the doorway a long time, listening to the ceiling fan tick. The house breathed. I matched it. The morning broke quiet and thin, a pale band on the kitchen tile. I set the canvas bag on a chair and made coffee in a heavy mug Miguel once found at a church sale, thick as a brick handle, big enough for 2 fingers. The house breathed the way old houses do, the wood giving a little with the temperature, the pipes clearing their throats. Before 7, I locked the back door, set the alarm, and stepped into air that still carried last night's heat like a remembered argument. Alamo Federal Credit Union opens at 8, but the branch manager, Mr. Chavez, likes to water the rosemary and the planters before the doors unlock. He was there, sleeves rolled tie, tucked back like a flag in the wind. "Senora Alvarez," he said, tipping his chin the way men do when they've known your signature longer than your face. "You're early." "Better than late," I said. We sat in his office under a framed photo of a championship Little League team from a year when boys wore socks high. I slid the folder across the desk. On top, I placed a list I had written at the diner, clean block letters, bullet points square as stones in a path. "I need to remove all authorized users from checking and savings," I said. "Only my name. New cards, new pins, text alerts for anything over $20. And I'd like to move the auto drafts for utilities out of checking and into a separate bill pay account with a cap." He read without hurrying. "We can do that," he said. "Do you want the debit card limits lowered?" "Yes," I said, "and no overdraft protection. If there isn't enough, it should bounce." He smiled at that, a small respectful thing, and keyed in notes. Printers hummed. Fresh plastic slid from a sleeve with my name on it, letters raised like braille for the sighted. He handed me a sheet to sign. I signed in the same hand that signed field trip slips and police reports and a marriage certificate older than my son. When we finished, he reached into a drawer and placed a small envelope on the desk. "Safe deposit keys," he said softly. "We can update your box. Whoever's on it now will take off." "Who do you want added?" "No one," I said. "Not for now." He nodded. Before I left, I sat at a kiosk computer and changed passwords the long way. No family names, no birthdays, no words that belonged to us. Outside, the rosemary smelled like a memory that never curdled. I breathed it in and put the new cards in my wallet behind a library card that still carries a ghost of glue from Maya's old sticker. The courthouse is 3 blocks from Linda Barrow's office, a squat building with blinds that never quite line up. I climbed the stairs, counting them out of a habit 12, and stepped onto carpet that used to be red and is now a respectful brown. Linda came out from behind a door with her reading glasses perched on her head like a forgotten idea. She had been a public defender once. Now she keeps widows like me from being softened into the edges of our own lives. "Ruth," she said, and her voice landed on the right syllable. "Come on back." Her office held books in a tired rainbow probate property powers practice. I laid my list on the desk and the folder and the tin box ribbon tied around the key. She took a yellow pad and did not reach for a speech. She only asked what I wanted the paper to do. "The house and savings into a revocable living trust," I said. "I'm trustee while I am here to be it. If I'm not, the trust appoints Reverend Cole as protector to make sure whoever steps in doesn't mix up what I want with what's easy. Durable power of attorney that cancels anything older than yesterday. New advance directive with Linda Barrow listed for notices. Transfer on death for the investment account to the trust, not to any one person." She wrote, pen scratching the way cicadas hum in July. "And a use and occupancy agreement I added for Daniel. 30 days. If he stays, he pays a share of utilities on time, no guests longer than a long weekend without permission, no adding lines to the phone plan, and no speaking for the house. Violations end it." Linda drew a little box in the margin and checked it. "Enforceable," she said. "You want service of notice by hand or certified mail?" "Hand," I said. "I'm right there." We reviewed the terms line by line. We did not speak in metaphors. She explained how the trust holds title, how the deed moves like a quiet river from me to it without splashing, how the POA ends any stale signatures skittering in drawers. She did not offer comfort. She offered paper, which is better. When the paralegal came in with a stack of documents thick as a Sunday newspaper, I read each page. Not because I doubted Linda, but because I know what happens when a person signs what she does not own with her eyes. I initialed where initials make a path, signed where signatures stop a door from drifting open at night. We notarized in the conference room under a fluorescent light that hummed. The notary had a pen with a gold barrel that carried a scratch where a wedding ring had found it again and again. "Raise your right hand," she said, half out of habit. And I did, though the oath here is only ink and presence. By noon, I was back in my car with a folder thicker and my bag lighter in the ways that count. I drove to the credit union's safe deposit vault and slipped the trust papers into the box, the key turning with that precise, satisfying click you can't confuse with anything else. In the lobby, a woman braided her daughter's hair tighter than I would, and the girl's eyes rolled up to see what she couldn't. I recognized the look. On the way home, I stopped at a diner with booths that stick a little in summer. The special was meatloaf and a slice of pecan pie that had more syrup than pride. I drank coffee that remembered yesterday's grounds and opened a spiral notebook I'd bought at the drugstore. On the first page, I wrote a list titled, "Things I Don't Apologize For." The letters looked like they were built from nails. I wrote locking my doors, saying no twice, wearing out one pair of shoes before I buy another, knowing the names of my bills, and remembering who taught me to stretch a dollar until it changed shape. I added keeping my own name on my own accounts. Back at the house, the porch held heat like a dish keeps soup. I unlocked the door with a new key that fit the new cylinder and kept the old key on the ring with the grocery cart token to remind me what used to turn. The Nest blinked its impartial red eye. I tapped its side and opened the app. The clip from Brianna's call to her friend resized itself into a neat rectangle. I saved it to a folder marked receipts because we use the language we have. Inside, the air smelled like cumin from last night. I pulled the ladder from the closet and tightened the porch light's bulb until the flicker stopped. Up there, aluminum hummed faintly. On the floor, the canvas bag waited. I sat and printed the bank statements I had saved, hole-punched them, slid them into a binder in the order a clerk would appreciate. If you lay facts straight, they do not need to raise their voices. Jordan came in, sweaty, grinning about a bank shot he'd finally made. I handed him a glass of water. He drank it in 3 tilts and held out the empty like a prayer come true. "Another," he asked. "Earn it," I said. He rolled his eyes and brought in the trash cans from the curb. It took him 90 seconds. I poured him another glass anyway and let the ice clink like small approvals. Maya followed with a notebook of her own, the cardboard cover soft at the corners. "Can we measure the garden?" she asked. "For a project." "After I mail something," I said. We walked to the box at the end of the block, her step, hop, skip, quick, my steps the same length. They've been for 30 years. I sent certified copies of the new deed and the trust abstract to the county recorders folded into envelopes that didn't want to stay closed. On the way back, the neighbor across the street, Mr. Cantu, whose knees read the weather, lifted a hand. I lifted mine. By late afternoon, the house smelled like starch and lemon again. I pulled fresh sheets on the guest bed no one uses and set the old ones to wash on gentle. In the dining room, I wiped the table until the grain came up warm as skin. From the sideboard, I took the lace runner my mother brought from a shop that closed before Maya was born. I shook it once on the porch, watched starlight of dust fall where the sunlight caught it, and laid it flat, smoothing the scallops with both palms. In the hall, I opened the closet and pulled out 2 contractor bags folded tight like dark sails. I set them beside the door, not hidden and not on display the way you put out boots. You know you'll wear if it rains. The sound they made against the floor, soft plastic in tension, settled into the room. I took the USB drive from the drawer, the one with a red stripe, and clipped it to my keyring with a small carabiner. Evidence hangs better when it rides where you reach for it. Around 6, Daniel texted to say he'd be late. Brianna didn't text at all. I boiled pasta and heated sauce from a jar Maya would doctor with basil if she were here. I ate, then washed the single bowl and spoon and left them to dry without a towel. The sun eased down, and the pecan threw its old generous shadow across the yard. The ceiling fan ticked in its private rhythm. When the sky turned the color of a bruise that has nearly faded, I opened the front door and stepped onto the porch. The neighborhood held its evening chorus, a dog bargaining with birds, a truck downshifting a laugh from the house with the blue shutters. I flipped on the porch light and watched the moths arrive, soft bodies bumping the glass, tapping their case against a sure thing. Inside, I folded the notebook shut and slid it under the phone book no one uses. I locked the new lock and set the chain out of habit. Though the chain is theater. In the mirror by the hall, an older woman looked back. A woman with working hands and a straight back. I nodded to her and turned off the lamp. The house relieved exhaled. Sunday slid in clean and bright, the kind of Texas morning that smells like dust warming. I trimmed the ends from green beans, snapped them into a steel bowl, and set a roast to braise low with cumin and onions. The contractor bags waited by the door like folded thunder. I did not move them. The house carried a working calm dryer, turning radio-low garden hose ticking in the sun. By 4, the table was set. The way my hands remember without thinking. The lace runner lay flat edges scalloped. Plates like moons. Forks left knives right. The Nest watched with its patient red eye. Daniel's car coughed into the drive near 5:30. He came in first, hair still damp from a quick shower apology and his smile before words formed. Brianna followed, sunglasses perched to dress the color of grapefruit. The children tumbled in with the energy of dogs, let out of a gate, Jordan dribbling a foam ball down the hall until the baseboards protested. Maya swung her shoulder bag like a bell. "Smells amazing," Daniel said, setting down a grocery store pie and a 6-pack of sparkling water he knows I don't buy. "Hands," I said, tipping my chin toward the sink. At the table, we bowed our heads. I thanked heaven for food and work and the bodies gathered to eat. While I prayed, Brianna's phone lit once, then slept. When we lifted our faces, she smiled wide enough to show all her teeth. Air feels heavy, she said lightly. Can we crack a window? The air's fine, I said, and passed the beans. We ate in the rhythm, families, learn, hands, and plates, salt passed without asking the small choreography of reaching and retreating. For a moment, you could mistake it for peace. Then Brianna wrinkled her nose and raised her eyebrows toward the kids, as if the joke lived in an adult's face. There it is again, she said, that thrift store thing. The words landed in the room like something wet on a clean floor. Jordan's laugh cracked. Maya covered hers with a napkin. Daniel looked anywhere but at me. I set my fork down. The nest's light glowed in the corner, a red bead on a small wire. I pushed my chair back and stood. The chair feet made an honest sound against the tile. Pause, I said. Brianna lifted her glass smile, holding. Did I? We're just... Pause. I repeated easy as closing a drawer. I stepped to the doorway and leaned one palm on the frame. The wood is old and smooth where hands have polished it for years. Outside, the pecan laid its shade like a folded blanket. The porch light was off for now, but its bulb waited. Lights remember their jobs. I'm going to say this once I said. This house is held by a trust in my name. I am the trustee while I have breath to be. If I do not, the papers appoint someone who knows where lines go. This table, this roof, this air, that is what I pay for. No one speaks for this house but me. Brianna laughed, a small sound that wanted company. We're just kidding around, she said, looking to Daniel as if he would hold the mirror. Honestly, we help with so much. You know we do. Jordan's eyes slid from me to his father. Maya traced a circle in the condensation ring. Her glass had left a habit learned quick. I walked to the sideboard, took the binder from the shelf, and laid it in the table's middle, open to a clear sleeve with a single printed page. The title line read, Use and Occupancy Agreement, in a font with no flair. Under it, Daniel's name waited above a blank, where a signature goes when it is ready. 30 days, I said. If you stay, you pay your share of utilities on time. No guests beyond a long weekend without permission. No adding lines to plans with my name, no speaking about me as if I'm furniture. Break it once, and the 30 days end that day. Daniel swallowed. Mom, he said finally, the right word. This is a lot. It's measured, I said, not a gram more. Brianna pushed her chair back half an inch, then forward. We can talk about this like adults, she said. We don't need... I tapped the binder's next sleeve. Inside the screenshot sat neat and square her ringlet face, the mantle behind her, the text of her friend's handle up top, and the caption from her live chat that read, Free childcare, built-in meals, utilities are a non-issue. If we get her placed before school starts, she went very still. The stillness told the truth. Don't do this in front of the kids, she said, voice softening in a way meant to look like care. They live here, I said. If a thing can't live in a lighted room, it does not belong to us. Maya's eyes darted to the page, then to me. Jordan's mouth worked around a word he didn't say. Daniel rubbed his forehead. We've been stressed, he said. I lost the job, the storm. We meant... I know what you meant, I said. I am telling you what I mean. Brianna's smile flattened. You can't just throw us out. I walked to the hall closet, opened it, and brought the contractor bags to the threshold. The plastic whispered against the tile. I set them beside the door, black and harmless as folded coats. I'm not throwing anyone, I said. I am drawing lines you can see. If you plan to live with me, you will not speak about me like a chore. You will not touch my accounts. You will sign the paper that tells the truth about where you stand. If you do not plan to live with me, your things will fit in these bags by 9. Brianna stood hands flat on the table as if to push the wood back into place. This is cruel. It's clear, I said. Jordan looked at Daniel. Who's going to pay for internet? He asked, plainly curious, not yet practiced in adult shame. Who's going to take me to robotics on Thursdays? Maya said, equally plain. Daniel opened his hands empty. Will, he started, then stopped hearing it. Say the right sentence, I said gently, not unkind. Teach them how to name the truth. Daniel's shoulders slumped the way boys do when a game's last shot rims out. He looked at the binder, then at the children, then at Brianna. Your grandmother has been paying, he said, for a long time. If we stay, we follow her rules and we help. If we don't, we pack. Brianna's jaw worked. This isn't fair, she muttered, and there it was, the raw wire behind all the decorum. Fair is a weather word, I said. The paper is the weatherproofing. I slid the pen across the table. The click sounded like a small latch finding home. Daniel took it and signed where his name had been printed. The loop of his D matched the loop in the second-grade photo in my tin box. I initialed the margins where Linda had fit small squares. Brianna stood without touching the pen. She walked to the hall, scooped the contractor bags in one arm, and disappeared into the bedroom she had painted a fashion color without asking. Hangers squealed. Drawers thudded. A zipper ran its teeth. The house listened without flinching. Maya sat very straight. Jordan picked at a blister on his thumb. I poured them each a glass of water and set the glasses down on cork mats so the rings wouldn't mark. Your robotics kit is paid through this month, I told Maya. We'll look at Thursday rides near the end of the week. I turned to Jordan. There's a hoop at the park that doesn't double rim. We'll find it. He nodded, relief breaking across his face like shade. Brianna returned with 2 bags fat, with clothes and shoes and smaller bags that multiply inside bigger ones. She stopped at the door. Daniel, she said, careful as an exit line, you coming? He looked at the kids. He looked at me. He reached for the new terms with his eyes before his hands knew. I'm going to get them to bed, he said. We'll talk tomorrow. Her mouth tightened. I'll be at my sister's. The key that fits the new lock is mine, I said. If you need to pick up more things, text first. She raised her chin in the way people do when they want height to be power. You'll regret this, she said, and the porch took the words without echo. I opened the door. Evening leaned in warm as a dryer sheet. I flipped the porch light. It came on with a faithful hum. Brianna stepped past me, bags, thumping her thighs, perfume and grapefruit and something sharp. The moths bumped the glass as she crossed the threshold. I watched her walk to the car, set the bags in, and pull the door hard enough to shake the pain. The engine turned, the car reversed. The taillights made 2 red coins in the driveway, then drifted down the street. I closed the door and set the deadbolt with a sound that never lies. The house exhaled. The radio in the kitchen mentioned a score I didn't care about. Dishes waited a few. I stacked them and ran water. Daniel shepherded Jordan down the hall. Maya hung back in the doorway, a question perched on her lip. Not the kind you answer with policy. Put the science sprouts in the window, I said. They like morning light. She nodded and carried the shoebox to the sill. In the glass, our faces floated for a moment, hers still lit by possibility, mine mapped by miles. The porch light made a small halo on the stucco. The binder sat where I had left it open to the page with ink that would not fade if the roof held. When the kitchen dried, I stood in the entry and looked at the doorframe, the spot my palm had warmed. You could see where varnish had given up its shine to oil and time. Through the wood came the faintest vibration, a truck shifting a neighbor's television, the soft, normal noise of a street that keeps living. I set the binder back on the shelf. I left the contractor bags by the door. I turned off the porch light and let the moths find the dark again. Morning settled into the rooms as if it knew the way. The house kept its new quiet, not a hush exactly, more like a tool set put back where it belongs. The binder lived on the sideboard now. The contractor bags stayed folded by the door for a week, then I slid them into the hall closet behind the winter coats. No one asked where they went. Daniel started getting up before the sun. He drank coffee black the way men do when they're trying to change something only they can feel. The second Tuesday after Brianna left, he came to the table in a shirt with his name stitched in blue above the pocket. A logistics outfit out by the interstate had put him on nights, scanning the hard choreography of pallets and belts. He ran a thumb along the embroidery like he was reading it for the first time. How late, I asked. 2 a.m. if the trucks behave. Bring your boots off at the door, I said. He nodded. We didn't add anything to that. The kids adjusted faster than the adults. Children will. Maya used the window over the sink as a sun clock for her sprouts, moving the shoebox an inch each day. Jordan shot hoops at the park with a net that didn't bite the ball back. On Thursdays, Mr. Cantu from across the street drove Maya to robotics because his knees like to be useful. He tooted the horn twice and waved as if he'd been assigned the job by a committee. Bills arrived with their usual faces. The family plan disappeared from my statements. Then the streaming bundle followed like weeds pulled up by the roots. Daniel handed me a folded wad of cash one Friday, the first share of utilities, and set it beneath the salt. He didn't look at me while he did it, and I didn't make the money talk by counting it out loud. I slid it into the coffee can, where I keep the envelope system, and that was that. Brianna came back twice. Once for shoes that only match one dress. Once for a box she'd labeled seasonal as if spring were a brand. She texted before each trip. I opened the door, stood aside, and kept the porch light off, even though the hour suggested it. She moved through the hallway with her jaw set, perfume trailing a thin line that unraveled between rooms. We didn't fight. That was a surprise to both of us. She left the old house key on the table without being asked. The metal showed where it used to know the lock. It looked older for the notches it would never use again. The trust work finished itself the slow right way. I met Linda Barrow at her office to sign an amendment that sharpened the conditional language, no lump sums to anyone. Distributions only for school medical or a down payment tied to proof of savings, and a real budget that adds up. Reverend Cole agreed in writing to serve as protector, the kind of man who reads footnotes and does not mistake politeness for consent. We added a scholarship clause with a name that sounded like a hand laid on a shoulder, the Miguel and Ruth Skilled Trades Grant. Small, steady boxes welding HVAC linework. Any craft that makes a county run, preference for kids from the neighborhood who bring letters, show up on time, and return a phone call in the same day. In the garden, tomatoes fattened along the fence. Maya measured the bed with a tape and drew a map on graph paper with arrows that looked like roads. Jordan learned the rhythm of the hose so water lands in the bowl of the plant instead of the leaves. He set 3 river rocks along the border and named them with a seriousness I recognized. In the evenings, they grated cheese over beans and argued about whether cilantro tastes like soap. I let them argue. If a kitchen can hold debate, it can hold a lot. Saturdays brought the same chores with different weather. Sheets flapped on the line. A neighbor's radio leaked a Tejano chorus into the alley. Daniel, on his days off, replaced light switches without being asked. He sealed the crack along the baseboard in the den where Winter likes to sneak in. He stopped flinching at the Nest camera and started waving at it with a sheepish grin when he came in late, boots in hand. Once I heard him in the hall telling Jordan, "We talk right in this house," and I stood still in the pantry with my hand on the rice until the sting behind my eyes passed. The fellowship women from church asked if I'd host the monthly potluck again. I said yes because the answer fit in my mouth easy. The day came hot then hotter. I iced tea in 2-gallon jugs. The porch sagged a little on the west corner where the mailman steps. I didn't pretend it didn't. People arrived with food and the kind of conversation that keeps a room round. Tamales steamed in towels. A macaroni baked to a square that held its shape when you cut it. Someone brought a lemon chess pie that tasted like the first thing a child learns to love. Daniel came late, hair damp, clean shirt. He set down a store pie and a box of sparkling water. He found me in the kitchen, reached for a stack of plates, and carried them like he'd been doing it since he was tall enough to see over the counter. Maya poured tea without spilling her tongue caught between teeth with concentration. Jordan announced refills as if he were paid per glass. Laughter did what laughter is supposed to do, loosened shoulders, made space. We said grace. Not for show, not to point at anything or anyone, just because the habit still fits. I thanked heaven for food and work and these bodies gathered to eat. I didn't pray for changes. I didn't ask for lessons. The amen rose from the table like steam. Later, when the chairs scraped and the last dish was dried and the kitchen smelled like clean water and lemon, the house took its breath again. People hugged, made small noises about seeing each other soon, and stepped out into air that still held the afternoon. The porch light blinked at the moths. The pecan threw its steady shape across the yard. A girl from the block rang the bell by mistake. She was selling raffle tickets for the band. I bought 2 and slipped them into the envelope can. After the last goodbye, Daniel lingered. About the other night, he started, then shook his head, aiming for a straighter sentence. "Thank you for the paper," he said. "I needed to read it." He didn't say sorry, and I did not fish for it. Some words work better when they arrive without bait. I walked him to the door. The deadbolt turned with a sound you can recognize in the dark. The contractor bags stayed where they were in the closet, unneeded but not imaginary. Maya's sprouts had outgrown the box. Roots pressed the cardboard like fingers. Jordan's rocks kept their places. The binder on the sideboard held ink that would still be legible if the roof leaked for a week. I sat in my chair by the window and set my hands on the armrests, palms down the way you do when the day has asked for everything and you mean to give it only what remains. Outside, a truck shifted 2 streets over. Somewhere a television laughed on the laugh track. The porch light made a steady circle on the stucco. My keys lay in the wooden bowl by the door, just metal and a red-striped USB clipped to the ring, quiet as tools after a job. I didn't think of the past as a movie or the future as a plan. The house breathed. So did I. The runner lay flat. The table waited without hunger or impatience. In the kitchen, one glass turned itself clear on a rack. In the garden, something made for itself in the dark. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.